one thing that the guests probably don't know, which we'll bring up first of all, is that you are a dairy farmer by trade. Not many people would know that, wouldn't they? Know?
Yeah, I grew up on dairy farm until I went to uni. So, my old man, yeah, my dad's a dairy farmer in rural WA. Not anymore, but now he just does a bit of beef farming. But yeah, I grew up on dairy farm for 17 years, and then I went to move to Perth for all the uni and that. But um, yeah, my parents they still got they've downgraded recently to 300 acres, but when I was growing up as a kid, it was on like a 1,600 acre farm.
There's no
So,
days off on a farm.
mate, there's no holidays. You get tapped on the shoulder when you're a kid, 4:30.
Yeah.
Get up, dark, get on the four-wheeler motorbike, get up the cows.
I remember we were in Ireland, down west, and for a wedding, and everyone was drinking the night before the wedding. They must have got home about 3 o'clock, and the farmer, he's up at 4, bang, straight away, milk the cows. There's no sleep-ins at all.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's too much work, mate.
What did that? What
Once
did
I,
that
mate,
go on?
once I moved to Perth and up into the big smoke sort of city, and got introduced to a couple of pubs and a bit of study, and just like, how good's this? I'm not going back to the farm.
Yeah, it's good put in perspective.
Yeah.
Now you're down in Melbourne at the moment
Yes.
with part of the AFL referees, right? Tell us what that involves.
Yeah, so I signed a part-time role, and I'm head S&C of the field umpires AFL. So essentially, what it is, I'm just rolling out a lot. I'm managing a lot of the running loads, putting a bit of variety into their schedule, because it's a bit different to training teams. Because you imagine like when you're training a sports team, there's always different drills. You're playing a different team every week. There might be different tactics. And you're doing all that kind of stuff, but you don't have that with the referee. It's just like running, running, running. So it's probably, it can get monotonous for people just to do the same stuff all the time. So we're trying to put a bit of variety in there while still keeping all the running loads. You don't have any crazy spikes or anything like that, because that can lead to injury. So we're trying to keep that stable, but make it interesting. And like my boss Rob Jackson, like, he's really, really good. So what we're trying to do is make it more like a high performance type setup, rather than just doing long distance runs and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't realize is that these guys run on a game day 14 kilometers.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and they're a different demographic. They're a little bit older populations, because like refs could be anywhere from 20, a little bit older, probably up to 45 type thing. And obviously, the more experienced referees are generally the older ones as well. So along comes a little bit more of an injury risk, because I don't know. I'm turning 38 tomorrow, mate, and I'm struggling to get
Oh,
out of bed.
really?
I struggle to get out of bed in the morning, so I'm a bit scared of the 40s.
AFL referees are pretty active as well, like you said, but
Mate,
they're
to see
not. They're
that.
not just running. They're sprinting, turning. They're on it hard.
That's exactly right, mate. So, we've with the programming and that, we put a lot of change of direction emphasis in,
Mm.
and put some different mechanics in there, trying to bring in some. They already brought that in recently, but a lot more running mechanic type stuff.
Mm.
Just trying to get guys the ability to move really well in different directions, being robust, resilient in those injury-prone areas, which typically are like ischias, calf area, hamstring, adductor type thing. And what was pretty crazy was I didn't realize, like, if you ever watch in slow motion of these guys bouncing a footy, um, I never realized the velocity that happens at, and what they get into. Like, they really have to do like a single leg hinge,
Mm.
like at velocity. It's kind of like doing a medicine ball slam, but with a single leg hinge type thing,
Yeah.
over and over. So
Yeah. Then
yeah,
the boundary throw in, that's overtime as well. If you need good strength for that. It's an overhead med
yeah,
ball throw, isn't it?
I look up for foot umpires, but the boundary,
Ah, okay.
yeah, but they go up and down
Mm.
all day. And it's important for them to be, I guess, it's kind of like when you think about these Formula One drivers, right, and how fit they have to be. Like, some of these guys are super, super, super fit. It's
Mm.
because you want these guys to be able to do really important decision making. So you want to limit that fatigue as much as possible. So then you make better decisions. So these guys have to be super fit. They have to be calm amongst the chaos and make good decisions, you know. So it's a different to what I've been used to doing. A lot of it I can do. I can plan a lot of it from remotely type of thing. But it's cool, man. And then I obviously got all my online stuff that I've been doing as well.
Yeah, you smashed it.
Yeah, and I've got heaps different.
So with the referees, are you doing? Is it just the running stuff, or do they do any drills where they're making, like you said, decisions, practice at fatigued?
So what I do is I do a lot of skill stuff with the actual referees, coaches. You know? So that's a separate thing to what I do. Because they'll go through all this decision making and all that with the actual referee, the umpires, coaches. Yeah.
But it's cool to get a taste here because you obviously, a lot of people know you grew up on AFL and you come full circle now back into it down in Melbourne, which is the heart in Australia.
Yeah, I still watched a bit of league last week, but
yeah. It won't be talked about as much down there. You'll be in the pub watching on your own, like AFL here.
Yeah, it's good. But I watched the UFC here at the pub a few weeks ago, and like I was amazed by how many people get into it over here as well.
Yeah, Redfern, they just fight in the streets. They don't watch it on TV.
Well, I've actually moved to Collingwood, so
it's the same. Yeah, they're not. Those fans aren't really.
I didn't want to lose that edginess, you know. A bit like looking around, you know, keep it exciting.
And with the new gig at the moment, what are you doing? Any different types of research, or what do you have your head in at the moment? You're always into something. What tickles your fancy?
Look, to be honest with you, my workload recently, I've been a bit lazy, Sean. Since moving to Melbourne, I didn't want to. The first month, I didn't want to do anything crazy. So that's why I haven't been doing any face to face with any of my clients. But I'm probably ready to do that now because I missed the coaching and the one-on-one stuff and just being around people. But as I was saying to you before we went live, it's just, you know, waking up. I started being a PT when I was like 21 or something. What's that? 17 years. But I reckon I've woken up most days at 5 a.m. And since moving to Melbourne, I haven't got out of bed before 6:30. And like, it's just, I feel like a new person. Like, hey, so when I'm writing and stuff, started writing some articles again, and I'm just like, I feel so much fresher when I write. I'm not falling asleep at the laptop in the afternoon.
Yeah, that was one of the good things about lockdown for us. It kind of just made us realize, wow, how different you feel, and kind of reevaluate where you're at, like your quality of life during the day. Especially you, obviously, we get up early, so you need to peak early, but then you're doing sessions at night, so your adrenaline needs to be up at night as well, so you're kind of all over the shop. Yeah,
so at the moment I'm just doing the AFL umpires, and then I'm doing a bit of online stuff, and then the plan is to do some more face to face soon. Yeah, probably a couple of days a week maybe. I would like to do some sprinting stuff with field sports and stuff like that as well. So.
Yeah, we were saying, obviously, it's probably for coaches listening, it kind of seems like the glamorized version of the end goal should be, oh, you work on your laptop and coach people. But as you probably know, you can't be a good online coach without developing the skills face to face, and it's constantly evolving. So when you learn a bit of research, okay, I'm going to apply to this person, and then that will give you the skill to be able to apply to someone online then.
The amount of young trainers that are trying to get into online at the moment is crazy. I don't think that's the way forward, the best way for them to do it. Definitely, I think doing all the face-to-face, getting experience in the gym is the most important thing. But as you said, like, I'm doing a lot of online stuff now, but to be honest with you, I missed the coaching element. So you got to get that right balance between each one, because I hate being behind a laptop all day. Like, that's not me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm used to being on my feet, moving around. So yeah, I do miss that aspect. I miss being around all the lads in the gym as well.
Yeah,
having a bit of banter all day, you know.
I know. Even during lockdown, when it just finished, when I was predominantly online, I would still go into the gym and have breakfast with the boys and keep that routine. You still need that face-to-face contact with people.
You miss that social element. Yeah.
Otherwise, sitting at home all day watching Netflix.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about, like, I just signed up to a fight gym. That's the good thing. Straight away, you meet a bunch of new people, you know. You really connect with people when they're trying to take your head off.
Or you're trying to take their head off.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Now, one thing, which obviously applies to Gen Pop as well, but even from my own curiosity, that people talk about when we may look at strength and condition, and it is a quote we always hear: strength is the mother of all qualities. Okay, so people's approach to sports is simply just get them in the gym, get strong.
Yeah.
What's your kind of take on this, and where else is this correct? Is it kind of correct, or where else are people missing the puzzle on a little bit?
Well, I think it's, yeah, look, everyone says, like, they always say max strength is the foundation of everything and stuff like that. But, I've seen a lot of, like, when I was at my Muay Thai gym in Sydney, like, this guy's had 300 fights, 250 fights. He couldn't even bodyweight split squat. And he was throwing in the clinch. He was just tossing people. So I think strength's task specific. I've seen a lot of guys that are strong in the weight room. Then they try and wrestle, like in rugby league. They try and wrestle in the wrestle room. They're not very strong. But that being said, I think it does, give you a good foundation to put other things on top. So I think strength is important until it's not, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's that hard to get someone strong, to be honest. When you get a general pop client in, you see their strength go up pretty quickly. So in regards to, if you can get a general pop client strength up quite quickly, you're going to get an athlete's strength up a lot quicker, because just genetically they're going to be, I guess, a bit superior in that aspect. That's why they play top end sport. But for me, the real main beauty of strength training is not just solely force production. It's probably just building resiliency, and you're strengthening bones, tendons, the muscles, and it makes you quite robust. And I think it prevents a lot of injuries and prevents you breaking down. So I think in terms of for sport, yes, you need to be strong to produce force, but you just don't want your body breaking down. I think strength work's really good for that. But I think a lot of strength and conditioning coaches become strength and conditioning coaches because they love the weight room. And because they love the weight room, they kind of fell in love with these methods that they themselves really enjoyed, and they found success in lifting heavier weights. But that doesn't always mean that's the optimal way for sports. At the end of the day, you're not putting a barbell on your back on a field. You need to be very efficient at the movements that occur on the field. You need to be able to make decisions and have good technique in the sport that you play. So you got to get that right balance of strength training. And remember, strength training is just one method. We also have a bunch of other methods. You got your speed work, you change your direction work, you got your skills and technical, tactical sessions, which are the most important things. And you're just trying to put this strength training around these type of other qualities to build a great athlete. Yeah,
excellent. And what I'm going to do, obviously a lot of the people that listen to this podcast be more general pop as well, but they still understand that. But it's a good leeway of both, because even with strength, has your approach changed from like getting somebody, or when people think of strength, they may think powerlifting, where like you need to be strong in a squat or deadlift, but what you're talking about is like you're getting someone's muscles strong. It doesn't need to be everyone has the barbell deadlift and squat for them to be strong. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Well, back in the day, like especially when I first started, it was like, okay, you have to do all the powerlifting lifts. But there's certain athletes that don't really respond well to that. If you're putting a bar on someone's back and it jams up their low back, or maybe they don't have the right limb lengths and that to squat that well. Like maybe they're doing two third squats. Like who really cares, to be honest? Like end of the day, it's just what we call GPE. It's just general GPP. It's just general preparation. So the transfer of that stuff to like the actual sporting ability is not that high. So I've come back as like I still do those movements, but if it's not working out or it doesn't have to be in the program. Do you know what I mean? You can do a lot of different things to get someone strong. You don't have to necessarily be super strong in that lift. you just keep all your foundational movements in, find things that work for the person and the athletes or that group, and that could change depending on training age, the sport, a number of different things. But like you don't just have to do the power lifts. Yeah.
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 How has working with Gen Pop, because obviously you know people know you've been a personal trainer for how long, as well as strength coach.
About 18 years. Yeah. Maybe.
How has that helped in regard to some of the way you think about training
Yeah.
applied to sports?
Well, I think when you work with general pop and that, one of the things is you have that interaction and you have the learned ability to talk to people. And I think you can get, you get good at rapport, which is really important with athletes as well, because at the end of the day, you can have the best program on paper, but if you have no buy-in, it doesn't mean shit. So I think if you can, with doing personal training really helped me to like communicate with people, learn more about their mindset and things like that. But also because obviously it's quite hard it's harder to get your technique right with general pop. So you learn to do proper, not only progressions, but regressions as well. Because like, you might have athletes that can squat perfectly day one, but you'll get someone come in that can't even body weight squat, because they've been broken and they haven't got that experience in the gym yet. So you learn to regress things, be patient, keep things simple. Yeah, and it's just the end of the day when all training is we're just stressing the body. We're trying to create adaptation, and it's just about applying that at the right time in the right amount. And I think, yeah, you learn not to break people. I think that's the most important thing. Um, you know, training doesn't have to be. It's not like the Rocky movies where you're on your hands. It's not like the Biggest Loser rubbish, whatever. It's just about getting in there every day, ticking it off. Yeah.
And obviously, similarities between both is the Gen Pop. General
Yeah.
Pop will stay at that general prep anyway for the majority of training, whereas obviously sports, it might just be at the start of the season. But for you to simplify it, you put it around a few basic movements, is that right? And just see what movement works for each person in the safest
Yeah,
possible
I
way.
mean, you're still going to have all your foundational movements, like your push, pull, vertical emphasis, horizontal emphasis. You're going to have your squat variations, your hinge variations, your unilateral exercises. And for me, I just write them down from easy to hard, and then, I'm just, slow cooking people on that process, and they're moving up and down depending on their ability where they're at. And like a lot of my programming with my athletes has changed over the years. I used to try and do like I always had this thing called vertical integration, which basically means you're focusing on a couple of qualities, but keeping a thread of all of them. And even now, that's probably, the difference between an athlete and general pop. General pop, you're probably just working on a couple of qualities all the time in the weight room. You're just trying to build a bit of quality tissue. You might be trying to increase strength. You're doing that with your strength movements, whereas in sports, you're looking at things like you need elastic strength, reactive strength, max strength, starting strength, build resiliency around certain areas, make sure the ankles are strong, their adductors are strong, their hamstrings are strong, the shoulders have to be strong for contact, whereas you don't have to worry, you might have to have a bit of neck strength, wrist work if you're a fighter or a grappler. You don't have to worry about those things as a general pop client. You can keep it a lot more basic. But the cake of both programs is the same. It's just the icing will be different,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100% agree. One of the topics which we've talked about before, obviously loads of times, and we laugh, is plyometrics, where like we'll see people maybe in the gym we worked out when they're doing depth jumps and then mad bounding, and then like you'll look on your Instagram and you see people doing little tiny hopscotches on one leg. Where does, first of all, we know people go wrong plyometrics where they progress too quick, but does plyometrics or any kind of jumping have a place in general pop? How do they program it? What's your thoughts on that?
It kind of depends. Like if you're a general pop client and you want to be a bit more athletic, and you might be playing a game of touch football on a weekend, or you might think it might help with your running ability, because there's a lot of people that had to kind of like, they want to look good, they want to be healthy. That tends to be the first two. But some people still want to be able to move well, be athletic, because they might want to, play the odd game of sport and stuff like that. So it's important that if you do if you want to bring in some plyometrics and stuff, you start with a low intensity thing. You don't go crazy with the volume because it can be quite hard on the joints and tendons, especially if you're not used to it. And you just got to try and you can work on some basic hop progressions to start with, keep the volume low, and it's just kind of like weight training. You don't start with a 5x5 method. You know, you're gonna do a couple sets, working on technique, we're working on movement, and over time we're going to intensify it. So yeah, when you see people jump off those boxes and their knees just cave in, it's like that's the physio over there. That's where you're going to end up.
That's what we normally see them as well. But that's a good point because
you see people do these box jumps and then they jump off the box. It's like, well, you just defeated the purpose of the box jump, which is to reduce the landing stress. You know what I mean? And you see a couple of videos go around. You see them jump back down. And you see the Achilles just go ping, and it's like horrible to watch. But I mean, honestly, just jumping rope is probably a really good place to start for people. Learn to skip. Can you skip double leg? Can you skip single leg? You know, skipping single leg can be really difficult for a lot of people. So you can start double leg, then you can do alternate between legs, then you can do single leg. You can just do that as your warm up instead of just jumping on the cross trainer. Have a skipping rope. It's going to improve your coordination, might improve your footwork a little bit, and it's going to build some of that volume into your legs. It's probably a good place to start, and then you can start doing some basic hop variations. Forward, backwards, side to side, that type of stuff. But skipping is probably a really good place to start for a lot of people, to be honest.
It's a great point because obviously even the people we'll see will come in, assess them, ask them, any previous injuries? No. Then you might look at like the knee to wall test. You're like, have you injured that ankle? Oh yeah, sprained it 10 times. And putting that as well as a good mobility plan in there is a good way to strengthen everything up on the lower half of the body as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the plyometrics, really, you're just trying to, it's good for the tendons and that, but it's also really good for the lower limb, like the knee and the ankle joint. Improving the robustness and resiliency around there, but also the ability to produce force, that shortening cycle, yeah.
That's a good point. Even we obviously have Gen Pop people, but Gen Pop people that will still play sports, tennis, golf, go skiing. But how many times do you see people go, yeah, I'm going to ski season, ACL gone on the first day. So you're still looking at, all right, if you do something, you still have to you specify to some extent to what you're going to do to build it up.
Well, the thing is, it's like anything. If you know that you have something planned and you're planning on doing something, you don't just start the training 2 weeks before. You know, that's why these rugby league, rugby union, AFL do a 12-week preseason. It's so that they can their bodies can cope with the demands and the intensities of the grueling in season. So if you're going to do a sport or if you're going to go skiing or something like that, just plan ahead a little bit and put some of these things in that are going to help, because doing, these jumps or something, 2 weeks before probably is not going to help that much.
And skiing doesn't mean like practicing skiing on standing a bozo. We used to see that at the gym, didn't we? Skiing. It still means.
Yeah, you're going to see that stuff everywhere. But yeah, look, I don't really know so much about that stuff. Look, maybe it's a 1% or 2% of stuff that people might get some. They might find they get results out of it. Who knows? Because sometimes people say, yeah, this is seen in research doesn't work, but for a couple of people it might have worked. So you've got to be aware of that. But yeah, basic strength abilities and just main movements and get a bit of unilateral stuff in. It's probably going to help those type of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like a lot of that quote unquote fancy stuff that can make up small percentage of your program, but it still needs to be accompanied by the big stuff.
And let's face it, mate, it's pretty bloody simple for most general pop and athletes. You're probably going to have a 2 days where you're training. Let's say you're doing a full body emphasis, or if you only go a couple of days a week. If you go 4 days a week, you might have 2 upper, 2 lower. But if you're doing training twice a week, you're probably going to have a hinge variation as your main movement one day. You're probably going to have a squat variation on the other day. And then all your accessory movements each day is probably just going to be unilateral in nature. And that's when you can get your split squats in, your step ups in, some of your hinge variations. And then that way you're kind of getting that unilateral strength, and you're going to probably target some of those smaller muscles around the hips, around the knees, and that need a bit of resiliency for those sports. That's just a real simple way to keep it basic, and that's going to be for team sport, athletes and for general pop, most likely. You
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Yeah, 100%. That's even. I know it's hard for you as well to write quote unquote cookie stuff, but you can. Well, I've just wrote a program that I'm going to release. We're just using the exact same formula. You made movements, bang, hip hinge day, quad dominant day, some unilateral. Here's some progressions and regressions for the
yeah,
majority of people. You're going to see if they don't have any injuries. That's going to do them.
yeah, yeah. And just master the movements. Yeah.
Now, as we said, you've been around a long time. Tell me how your approach has changed over the last few years. I know you have a good little saying that being a generalist, what other aspects have you looked into that you may have thought a few years ago? Don't worry about that.
What's that? Sorry. What am I looking
Said
at
you,
now?
yeah, well, you've been around a while, as we said, but how has your approach to strength, condition, health, training people changed? And is there anything you're looking at now that you may have disregarded a few years ago? I know obviously you're probably looking more, being Gen Pop, the one advantage of that is you're saying, okay, how can I do these movements in the safest possible way? Have you brought that kind of prehab, rehab approach across to your sports?
Um, I don't know. It's interesting. It's like I think now I'm starting to read different sources, not so much in that's so specific. You're starting to read, some more, I guess, from different fields. I mean, when you read those books, you start thinking, oh, how this relates to that. Um, and I think a lot of people do that once they get a pretty good understanding of everything. You tend to start looking at other fields and seeing how that relates to your field. I think.
Say, for example, now obviously a big thing that's popular is breathing and all this, moving your diaphragm. Are you
Yeah.
applying that to your sports? Is it the boys
Well,
program piece receptive?
I actually just finished a 12-week course by a guy called Connor Harris. And then he's a big PRI guy at Possible Restoration Institute. And the 12-week course was on a lot of respiration. It was on like rib cage mechanics, pelvis mechanics, gait cycle, and things like that. But you have to be bringing that stuff in. It has to be depending on the client and the individual. If I got a bunch of athletes and said, "Hey, come down here, let's do this breathing exercise," they'll probably tell me to get stuffed. So you can get some of those principles. You just have to know how to place them in. But if you've got someone that's highly stressed and is a general pop client, and then you do a couple of breathing drills and they feel better straight away, they make, oh, hey, this works. You know what I mean? Personally, I've been trying to feel the drills and actually it does help me because essentially what people don't, with the breathing stuff, what I find is that breathing is mobility essentially because your rib cage, if you think about it, it's got so many different muscles and hanging off it. And if you don't have the ability to fully expand and compress these joints, then certain things are probably going to not be that happy. So, and a lot of people, it's actually pretty crazy introducing a couple of these drills that people can't actually breathe. They think they're drowning. Like you say, fully, expand everything. I mean, compress, hold your breath. People can't do it. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I had asthma growing up, so I had to like reteach myself to be able to breathe properly because naturally my like response would be just to straight into my neck, just that fight or flight breathing.
And when that stuff first come out, I kind of like was like everyone else. Oh, we breathe every 1,000 times as if I can't breathe. Then I think David Gray was like, he's the man, and like another Irish guy, mate. He's the man, just simplifying that stuff and just showing how this actually mobility work and bringing it together. So, I got his lower body basics 1, 2, I got his core program. And to be honest with you, a lot of his drills and the way he implements things is so cool. I'm a huge fan. So I've bought into that. And rather than doing things like foam rolling and just static stretching and things like that, I've brought in a lot of those principles that they're doing. Taking your hips and pelvis through different ranges of motion, a couple of breathing drills so you're getting that expansion, compression of the rib cage, and your body feels pretty cool. It feels better. I like that kind of stuff, to be honest. And I've definitely it's something that I'm more interested in learning about because a lot of the terms they do is quite complex. And I think a lot of people are trying to be quite fancy and incorporate it, but they don't probably have a full understanding of that yet. So that's probably why you haven't seen any social media posts by me, even though I've been doing a lot of the stuff in the background. But I don't really like presenting something until I have my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me, the way I am. So,
We'll
until
leave.
I think I have a very,
We'll leave the rest of
I
social media
won't.
to do
Yeah,
that. So we'll leave the rest of social media to do that. But I'm always trying to think of I know a lot of that stuff that you're looking at, and then we'll say prehab stuff to keep the body strong.
yeah,
Whereas some people may not do it, or may do it at the end. One approach that you've tried is doing it for a lot of people at the start, so you'll do it as part of their warm up to kind of quote unquote injury proof themselves, or maybe prime themselves before they get into their workouts.
yeah. I do it as a warm up typically, or if you have like a day off from the gym or something, I might bring some of those drills home. You can just do it at home in front of a TV or near the TV, or put some music on for 10, 15 minutes. And those drills is like, I say to my athletes, okay, you're a Lamborghini, right? And you're stuck in this, you need to get, if you're a Formula One car, you got to go to the pit stop, yeah? You got to make sure your tires are good, the suspension's good, everything's running smoothly. It's service for the car. So that's the kind of way I sell it to people, you're giving yourself a service. So you're moving more efficiently and you feel better. That's to keep you on the road. And I think, I think the more experience you get as coaching, you start using these analogies so that people can actually understand what you're talking about.
And it's hard because obviously, well, first of all, people you're too lazy to do it at the end of your workout, and you probably your quality of doing it is wrong. I know you've done isometrics where you do the Copenhagen stuff, single leg holds, single leg glute rest holds. Are you still doing stuff like that, or
I still do that
mix
stuff.
of both?
And it depends on the circumstances. But when I was when I was doing the footy stuff, I always made it as my warm up routine, because what would tend to happen even with his athletes, they'll be like, I get to the end and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
You see him in the corner trying to do biceps, triceps, and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, this is mandatory. You have to do this before you do anything. And that way it gets in the head, we have to tick these things off. Because, your main lifts are really important, accessories are really important, but these things need to have they have their place as well. Everything has a place. It's just about trying to find the right balance,
But even for general pop people to make it, the majority may have some kind of anterior pelvic tilt, or the back muscles are tight and the hips.
Yeah.
I try from sitting down, whatever, but even coming in and doing some of the stuff, some dead bug variations to get you out of that, and to kind of quote unquote switch your core on before your big lips is going to help it. All right.
Yeah, I just think just moving is really good for the body, right? So just taking the body through different ranges of motion, just so you're not stuck. Because I think when we get stuck in certain postures, we don't always go through these certain ranges. So I think just bringing in some movements where you're bringing back some of that range of motion can really help a lot of people. And then it's just ticking off the exercises, having good technique. And then once you've got that, start loading that up over time. And it's pretty basic once you get the hang of all that stuff.
Yeah, but some muscles that people may not traditionally train, where it's like you're looking at your adductors a bit more isolated, and you're looking at your hip flexors and some of your core muscles before those lifts.
Hammies really important. I've been starting to do a lot more hamstring exercises with the hips extended rather than hinging so much. I've been introducing a lot more of those, like David Gray has those foam roller bridge holds and stuff like that. So you can bring like basic stuff with your hips extended, and you're doing a Swiss ball curls and all that stuff. And it's pretty, I've got guys that are super, super strong in hinge variations, deadlifts and all that. But once you take that lower back out, it's just relying solely on hamstrings. It's a lot of those guys, and they're doing it at more of a neutral posture. They're super, super weak in those positions.
Yeah, same as when you get some maybe on a line leg curl, and you're like, all right,
get
yourself out of that. Yeah.
Hinging, and for me, I'm really, with my athletes, I'm really wary of that stuff, because I don't want them running like that with chest up, driving like this so much, you know what I mean? Because it's like a really extended pattern, which is okay, but we tend to want their posture to probably be a bit more neutral, and so their hips working a little bit better on the field. But so you got to be careful when you're doing some of these exercises that, yes, you can lift more in these postures, but sometimes you probably want to bring it back a little bit, just so you're probably not lifting quite as much, but you've probably got a little bit better technique.
And even in
But
regards,
people are always going to show me the evidence and all this stuff. I
yeah, I
have
know.
so much arguments on this stuff, you know. That's just what I think at the moment. So no one message. We don't really care.
Yeah, even like we'll have discussions at home with Nigel, and like you'd be like, okay, tight muscle, whatever way you want to interpret that. How many different ways is there of getting it flexible? You could get it strong, you could get it isometrics. There's so many different ways that will apply to different people that you may just have to figure out what works for that
Yeah,
person.
and
And you can't really study in the majority of people.
I think the other thing was what that course I just did, and I won't go into too much detail because I'm still getting my. I've listened to some of those lectures like twice over. Everyone always thinks of it just as muscles are tight. They're thinking of the muscles, but they're not really thinking about where the joint they attach to the joints. And a lot of the time, the muscles are slaves to where the joint position is. So that's why those breathing drills is about. A lot of people are open up, rib flared. Some of those breathing drills might actually get you to close those ribs down a little bit more, which means those muscles around that area might now be less tight. And same as your hip. You know, if you're jammed in massive anterior tilt, some of these muscles might be a bit cranky around that. If you can bring some hamstring drills in when you're going to get it underneath your hips a little bit more, perhaps some of those areas might feel a bit better.
Yeah, it's even why with some people that when I see them squat, they're squatting extension, whatever. Like I know a lot of people talk about it, just doing even some planks before they squat, just to get them back into that nice position, get the core on a little bit more.
Yeah,
That's been seen to help some people.
yeah. It's been at the end of the day, you just kind of we call it sensory motor exercises. So sometimes you want to put people in a position where they can feel those muscles before they do the movement.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you can put them in. So I like even in my general pop, we do a lot of half kneeling stuff, so you can get that good position, and then you might go from that. You might go into a split squat, okay? Because for years I was doing these re-elevated split squats, and I was just jammed up. And I was like, next day, why is my low back so sore?
Yeah, I know.
And I was just so extended, you know. So I was just trying to lift so much, and now I lift a little bit less, but like I had that better trunk, core kind of integrity the way it holds, and I feel the muscles a lot more now. I feel a lot better for it.
It's like when you get someone and go, right, we're going to stretch your hip flexors. Oh yeah, I know how to do it. I've done it millions of times. And then you get the pelvis in a proper position on a couch stretch or a hip. And oh, fuck, I never felt that before.
Yeah.
Just jamming themselves up the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just do a little half kneeling variations and that with your clients. Like, and then I think with a lot of general pop, just mastering a lot of those unilateral stuff, and then even for your upper body, doing some more, you know, use like cable rows and we're doing that unilateral, so you're getting some trunk rotation all of a sudden as well. So you're not just so rigid and stiff like you're like this all day on a computer. All of a sudden you're getting a bit of rotation through the core. You know, and you're getting out of that sagittal plane, you get a bit of transverse, a bit of frontal. You know, it's just end of the day, it's just movement for the body.
Yeah, but it's looking at it in a different way, like you said. Instead of going, okay, this phase we're going to do neutral grip, seated row, then we're going to go underhand, overhand. Be all right. Let's do a seated row. Next phase, let's get you on your feet, like you said, and get your pelvis in a good line, and then do it that way, and some rotation and different movement variability within that rowing motion.
Yeah, exactly right. And you're getting slightly different muscle activation and all that stuff. But I think the big thing is just like you get learn to control your body as well, which is really important. But yeah.
And even the last thing on the isometrics, and if you want to have a look over to Graeme's preseason program, he has a lot of it in it. But for people that there may be some people that don't need any mobility. You ever get people like dancers or something, they're so flexible, but like isometrically they're so weak to be able to stabilize the core and stuff as well. I've seen isometrics work brilliant for those people before you do other lifts, because they're too flexy and stuff, and they go into the main lifts. They can't control that pelvis properly.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, there's two different types of main isometrics. You got what you call yielding isometrics, and you got what you call overcoming isometrics. So I think what most people are familiar with is yielding, where you're holding your body. It should be like a plank, right? You're just holding that body, you're not moving anywhere. You'd be holding it, like say if you had a curl, you just held it and it's not going anywhere. And then you got what we call overcoming those isometrics, where you're kind of you're pushing against an unmovable object, and they both kind of have slightly different adaptations. Like if you're holding something and you're yielding, you're going to get more adaptations towards eccentric type things, And when you're overcoming, you're pushing against something, you're going to have more adaptations to more concentric stuff. So I might do the pushes and that, because isometrics are quite specific to the joint action of probably about 10, 15 degrees. So you might have to do a few different positions to get that carryover, or you can just do the weakest position. But like for my isometrics, I might use it for some injury prevention stuff, or I might try and isolate certain areas which I think is needed for the sport, and they need to be strong in those areas. For example, like some of my fighters, I might do some like clinch variations where they've got a ball and it's like mimicking someone's head and it's squeezing it. You can do it with the body, like a body one, and you try and squeeze it. And you can do that with your even rugby league guys and stuff like that, because like sometimes they got to fight for that ball. They're trying to rip it from the defender. They'll do that one-on-one strip. So being strong in that position is important. There's the guy that used to be is still at GWS Giants now, I'm not sure. Alex Natiria's got a series of running specific isometrics. So if you're a runner, and he's got ones for the ankle, knees, and hips, and those joint positions are highly specific to running. So you can strengthen those areas so that you're going to be hopefully have more force output or power production in those specific areas, but you're also going to be more resilient and have a bit of strength in those areas. That's probably might go over some people's head. That's a little bit.
No, that's good. I've used it for some people, whereas they may be a bit less stable and lifts you correctly. Let's just do a few pauses as you go down in your squat. 3-point pauses to develop the stability, because a lot of people just flap down and
and then, so you can use isometrics, like you can make it specific to the sport for certain positions, but then you can just do them in the weights room by, as you said, okay, come down in a squat, pause at the bottom, stay strong, stable, 1, 2, 3, come back out. Bench press, come down to your chest, hold it above the chest for 1 second, 1 inch above the chest, hold it for 3 seconds, power out. Because we know a lot of positions, there's always like a weak point in certain lifts. And, some people might not be able to progress in their strength because of that certain weak point or the sticking point. So if you do isometrics in those certain positions, you might get stronger. For example, some people might do chin-ups and might hold the top. They're weakest at the top, so you might hold it. So, like with your general strength movements, if you're a general pop climber and you're a little bit bored, what you can do is just add some isometrics into your programming by just pausing at the bottom of the squat, pausing at the bottom of your bench press, pausing at the top of your chin up, and they're just strengthening the weakest areas of the lift. And you might get some adaptations that might help you get stronger in those movements.
Yeah, like you said, we're still same way with sports. You're trying to make people robust in the gym poppy, but you're trying to make their quality of life good by making them injury free, etc. So obviously, if you're always in the bench press and you're bouncing off your chest, well, there may be a case where it gets too heavy and you get injured at the bottom of the lift because your tissue's not like used to heavy load there.
And that's also why tempo can kind of be important for beginner lifters. Like, I don't really use everyone used to use the 3, 0, 1, 0, all that stuff. But but with beginners, like controlling the down portion for 3 seconds, a slight pause at the bottom, making the reps a little bit slower might be good for motor coordination, especially in the beginning. And as you get progress, you probably don't need to do that. But yeah, it can also help with technique, as you're saying. And then as you said, like a lot, you'll see the girls. Typically, you'll see a lot of them will just drop into a movement and they have trouble compressing and coming out. So that can help with that. But you see a lot of guys do that as well. But yeah.
People have said the biggest thing when it comes to a strength and conditioning program for a coach is a rubber to be able to like delete stuff and trim the program down rather than add more stuff in. Now I know we can obviously only train as hard as we can recover. In your ideal situation, if you had control of an athlete's whole life or even a gen pop person, what stuff are you adding in that may be overlooked in regards recovery, in regards nutrition, sleep, all these other kind of things that may not be as fancy in a strength and conditioning program?
Well, yeah, I mean, you see all these clubs and that, and they're all trying to, they've got your hot, cold stuff. You've got, but at the end of the day, like nutrition, hydration, and sleep, the 3 big things. So I think for that, like even if you have no money, you can just educate your clients and athletes. So that's the number one thing. And that's the same with athletes, and that's the same with general pop. Just getting notice your nutrition, your sleep, and your hydration, and your stress management. They're the biggest things for recovery. Then training the right amount probably is. Don't have junk volume in. You see a lot of people have junk volume. With athletes, at the end of the day, you want them to get good at their sport. So you have to try and, put some of these qualities in so that people still perform at their sport well, but you're also giving them the sport doesn't provide. And that's hopefully going to help them in injury prevention, force production.
And what do you mean by junk volume if people aren't aware?
Junk volume is just people doing volume for the sake of doing volume, because they think, they're not really getting, it's not really giving them, you're not really stimulating anything. You're not getting any further adaptations. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And because of that, your body might not recover as well. And then if you're not recovering as well and you're tired, when you're training, you might not have, because in sports, like, at the end of the day, you want to get better at the sport. You want, as a team or whatever, you want to be switched on and work together as a unit. And then even though a lot of people chase fatigue, it doesn't mean that you're going to be executing those skills in the right manner. So you still want to be alert, fresh, execute these skills in an environment where you're switched on, you can do it to your greatest capacity. So you've got to have that fine balance between, yes, we've got to fatigue people so they continue to get better, but we still need to improve at our sport. And then every now and then we got to put some beastings in as well, because that's going to keep the head coach happy. Because a lot of people think, we're building mental toughness, which is a lot of rubbish anyway. But you got to play those politics of, you got to kind of play the politics as well. Like, this is what people think they need. This is what you think they need. Give them what you think they need, and then try and sandwich in some things that they think they need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like people come in and go, we need to do abs. Like, and you're like, in your head, you're like, yeah, fuck, right, come on. Like, you won't say that, be like, right, let's go 10 minutes of abs just for the placebo effect.
We're doing an ab quick blast because people go, oh, how good was that? If you can get 90% of your stuff in, who am I to say, hey, you're happy with that? So, but if you're doing 30 minutes of abs, that's just junk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the people, even a commercial gym, you'll see them in the gym for 3-4 hours, never progressing, looking the same. So what you're talking about is just like the quality of work, and you might be measuring that in your lifts or whatever way. That's the main component, and then the quantity can actually affect your quality of work.
Of course, yeah. And then the recent pandemic now is these bloody booty bands everywhere. It's just like, during COVID, I saw this person put a booty band around their ankles and then walk around a 500-meter track of a park. Like,
wow, that's
it's just, hey? Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm like, this is such a low-level load. It's not stimulating anything. You just wasted 20 minutes of your day and you didn't drive any adaptations. So end of the day, it's those big movements and things, and they're going to drive adaptation. So people that are, I guess, time poor, you want to get working, moving towards something, and then you want to do things that are going to drive adaptation and get you to the results that you want.
Because even when you used to train people, obviously 45 minutes, that's the time you're going to get good quality work in for a gym pop person. If you're spending more than an hour in the gym, like you probably don't know what you're doing. Or
I'm doing
time.
I was just doing like a 5-minute quick workout on what they needed. And then I'd probably have like half an hour of weights, but understand that, your weights, if you're doing them in the right fashion, their mobility as well. Weight training exercises can be some of the best mobility exercises, best movements of creating range of motion. And then you might just have a little conditioning block on the end, but for most general pop, you're trying to just explain to them, like, get some sleep in, get your 10,000 steps in, move every day, and then use these weight sessions or these gym sessions to like get the results that you're after.
Unreal. And what else is happening with you at the moment? Obviously, you're just getting your life sorted down there. Just moved down.
Yeah, mate, just moved down. I'm probably looking for some more face-to-face stuff. Uh, and I want to put like a little mentorship together. That's what I want to do. But I keep saying that and I just don't do it. But yeah, I'm gonna
For
start putting,
trainers.
yeah, just basic stuff, mate.
Yeah.
Which I think is basics, but it's not always basic because yeah, I always forget that a lot of people um, stop their seeds continue to upskill. Um, and then it can be quite hard for people to like find all these different amounts of information and break it down. So I think I can do that quite well, like bring a lot of information together and then break that down in a simplified way, which where people can understand.
Because
So
otherwise it takes people years to sift through information where you could have go, hey, I've done all that. Let me just shortcut it. Here you go.
trust me, I've done that.
Yeah, yeah. Which is not bad, but like there's a certain point where, like you said, you need some kind of good formulas to follow while you find your feet.
Yeah,
Otherwise, like this is the same reason I had people stand upside down Bosie balls because I didn't know any better. I didn't know I'd have anyone to look to when I first started.
yeah. I mean, people. I think trainers just got to. There's so much stuff out there with social media and all that. They just got to
Mm.
try to build themselves a bullshit detector. So I mean, you got to have principles in place. So that's a really important thing. Is like, what are your principles? So you don't make those mistakes. And that way, you can look at something and face value. Hey, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Should I put that into my programming? Yes, no, no. That probably doesn't tick off these requirements. I probably should delete that and let
That,
that orchestrates. You know?
that's why even I don't know about you, but I'm more reluctant to post about like movement and stuff because I'm every time I look at it, I'm like it's just another depot that there's so much different conflicting stuff we can talk about
Yeah,
and I'm like oh my days, it's really hard to
yeah.
simplify.
I don't really go into that because I can't be bothered. People saying, and you know
Yeah.
what, and social media is a weird thing. People will agree 99 out of 100 things, and
Yeah.
they'll pinpoint that one thing they don't agree with,
Hmm.
and then they'll just hammer that. I'm like, you're a, you're a dickhead. Like, if you pick people to get up there and pin like, and it's like you probably agree with like 99% of other people, and some certain people want to go into it. Like,
I
I
know.
don't know why they do it. It's weird, but
And they do it on social media. They don't come down the gym and put the gloves on. They just melt off on the phone.
a lot of keyboard warriors out there, isn't it?
And if you do keyboard Graham, he'll show up to your house like you did Jimmy Pie, but he'll knock on your door and he'll tell you to come out on the street. Let's have it out.
That didn't happen.
But that's even a frustrating thing when you see like Instagram accounts, they might have 3-4 million, and it's like tight hamstrings, do this stretch. And obviously, then as you look into it further, you're like, well, for some people that does nothing. Like you stretch it, it's not going to do nothing. Like that's
Yeah,
not the
like
reason. It's muscles are
I
tight,
don't,
and
I don't really stretch that the hamstrings that much anyway.
yeah, I know.
To be honest, I think a lot of people just need more hamstring strength. Um,
It's unfortunate. That's the same reason. The smartest people I know, they're always the most reluctant to put stuff up because, again, they
yeah,
know how much they don't know.
yeah,
That's what you get. But otherwise, you're gonna stay. Are you still taking people online or what?
kind of, kind of. Oh,
Waiting list.
hey,
Or you want to get more face to face?
I want to do more face to face
Yeah,
now,
but
mate.
download your preseason guide.
Yeah,
No matter where you are, it doesn't have to be a preseason. Even if you're in season,
I've
still work.
team sport athletes. I've got like an off season template in place, preseason template in place. I still look after a bunch. I look after clients online in Australia, New
Mm-hmm.
Zealand, Israel, Finland, England, Ireland. I got a heap of Irish actually. Um, yeah,
Yeah, go
Canada.
buy his ebooks. They're all brilliant, actually.
Sorry.
I said your ebook is good. The preseason one, all those templates, just good to follow, even for coaches, just to see how you program and.
Yeah, and it's got speed drills, speed
Mm.
work, change of direction work, power work, strength work, mobility, injury prevention, and conditioning. Yeah, and in a format that I think makes sense, and you're getting the right amount of qualities of each, and everything's like kind of connected with a video, so you know what you're doing.
Highly recommend. All right, I won't keep you. Go down the gym, kick the legs off some of those
Yeah,
people in Melbourne.
4:30. I've got a session. I did 5 rounds of the heavyweight 2 nights ago. I'm still in bits. He's fighting 125 kilos. My body's and it was I've joined an MMA gym now to do 5-minute rounds, not 3 minutes. I'm like, oh my days, there's an extra 2 minutes are tough. Yeah,
That's
I might have to do a bit more metabolic conditioning. Yeah.
Get in there, do your own program. All right, Gmo, thank you for coming on.
Okay.
Talk to you soon, bud.